So, you know, when they talk about unmanifest and manifest, yes? So obviously it's not manifest and unmanifest, it's unmanifest and manifest. Yeah, it's the correct way of seeing things. That's why this is a way of seeing things in a negative manner. In other words, if you had a picture or a photo, that photo could be copied zillions of times if you have the negative. Yeah. If you have the positive, the photo, you can't really, as meant, yeah, you can make a copy, but it would look worse and worse. But the negative is really what allows the manifestation of the positive, so to speak. So let's say this idea of faith is a force, neutral. Yeah. And it's going to manifest here in this dreaming. Let's call this a dreaming at the moment, like a verb. It's not a dream because that would give it a sense of thingness. It's dreaming, yeah? Or so something is manifesting and it comes to appear to then disappear. Yeah, because that's the dualistic movement. So here in the big book, it was written in 1939. And of course, it was targeting uh, an idea that actually finally worked to bring about a standardized way for people to get relief from that bondage of self. And what that was called, it was alcoholism. Yeah. So that before then, the only thing that could happen would be like a giant drop of grace or something would occur, but it would be rare. Yeah. And most people just ended up in getting lobotomies and up in someone's attic like Uncle Fred or whatever. Yeah, and even in the Old Testament in the Psalms, uh, one of the Psalms I saw when I was speaking at this church, they were bitching about winos even back then. What inducing or leading someone or something to a spiritual awakening. And yeah, and that was the key. And so they set out, they put it into a program. And they were very clear that the problem resides in the head, yeah, and that we don't want another solution from the head. So the solution would be what they would call a spiritual solution. Yeah, basically anything other than the head. Yeah, so they gave it the name of a spiritual solution, and it became revolutionary. And now the way the head demonstrates or expresses its addiction are like hundredfold, like eating or gambling or doing this and doing that. And there's pretty much a 12-step program being applied to all of those uh, agitated activities. Yes, yes. So they found a way to get relief and to be able to offer it to a much larger audience. Yes, not to induce, let's say, a cathartic event or whatever, but you can come in and before the awakening would be sudden, and now it's going to be over time. But the results are going to be the same. You're going to be relieved of the bondage of self, or this idea of being the doer, the thinker, the feeler, the taster, the toucher. Yeah, yeah. So this is the background. So this book, they came out with this book in 1939. They started, the two dudes that started AA met in 35. And it's a long history. There was a group called the Oxford Group that was a Christian movement that most of the people that started AA were members of that. And they had 6 steps in their program. And it was really about just admitting you're outmatched and surrender to something greater than you. Okay. So we get to this thing now. And this is out of a book that they call the Big Book. And it's in a chapter called We Agnostics, but just check it out, what it says. It's pretty amazing. So they're talking about to people because a lot of people had preconceived ideas of the word God, and it was becoming an obstacle for them to be open to recovery because this is a very like Christian God type presentation in a way. And the head could use that as an excuse not to get relief. Yeah. So they try to bend over backwards. And this is a chapter where they're talking about to agnostics about the program. And they had such faith in the program, they bent over backwards because they really believe the end justified the means. You just get them in the program and they'll get some relief. Yeah. Yeah, the dilemma was they'll get people in the program because of their contempt prior to investigation, all this and all that. So here they're discussing how everyone ends up where they end up. Yeah. Now we have billions of narratives about that from every seeming person. They have a narrative why and how they ended up where they've ended up. Yeah. Mostly thinking they did something to fuck it up or whatever. Yeah. But he's saying here, he goes, mission that it's not a faith. So it's not a denomination. It's not a path, but faith, I feel like a force. And it's a force of manifestation. Yeah. Before manifestation, there's no need for faith, but faith is what brings things about in the dreaming, I feel. Faith is the force that brings things about in the dreaming. It allows things to appear. Yeah. So the faith is like a neutral energy, and uh, it's going to manifest in what vehicle it's put in. Yeah. And now many people who have suffered from addiction and alcoholism, they are the recipients of a lot of faith in the head. Yeah. They believed what the head was saying with a certain religious devotion, which they call spiritless servility. Yeah. Spiritless servility. So they're starting to stay here that your story and all this or that, there's something that's moving all of us before the story is given to it. Yeah. And that is incredible, really. And he says, yeah. Without knowing it, have we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith? So we have stood millions of places, and he's basically saying, they're saying, you were brought to that place, not by you, not by them, but by faith. Yeah, this is pretty cool because the idea that the narrative is usually you to where you stand. Yeah, you had a whole lot to do with it, and they're sort of disclaiming that. They're saying no without knowing it. See, you know that you brought you to where you stood, but without knowing it, faith has actually brought you to where you stood. Yeah, that's revelatory in a sense. So without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. So wherever you're standing, the sense of this is that you were brought there. You didn't get there yourself. You were brought there. In other words, you're not what's moving you. There's a wind that moves you. And yet, while the wind's moving you, your head has a story that you're doing it all. Yeah. But really, you're not doing it all. You're being moved to where you find yourself. What has moved you? They say, well, faith. It's not you and it's not another person, but faith, a force of manifestation, literally. Yeah. So let's say there's the be still and it's just what it is, space. And then through faith, it manifests. And in our lives, I saw what faith in the thoughts could do. When the thoughts were held as my thoughts and they were the only direction I was taking, man, my life led or driven by that proved to be highly unsuccessful. Yeah. And usually when you find it unsuccessful, you think it's you or them. Mostly you're pointing at other people, stopping you from getting what you want. Or then finally it gets to you and they're both mistakes because you were brought there. Yeah. Now what brought you there? Faith. Faith in what? In this case, it was faith in the thoughts. Yeah. I had faith in the thoughts. What they told me I thought was true. And then I was moved by that faith. And it brought me where it brought me. Yeah, in front of a lot of judges on where that there's been some kind of in you. Yeah, yeah. And then the only option there is as the action figure, which is not on the action figure, is that it can be a different hand. But a hand is going to push you, but it can be a different hand. You can open up to another possibility. Yeah. Yeah. What's closing that is that all the possibilities that you think are open up to you, there's yeah. So without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. For did we not believe in our own reasoning? What is that but the head? Yes? The thoughts, the feelings that have been interpreted, the inclinations that the prejudices, the bias, all that stuff. Uh, we we believed in our own reasoning. And the dilemma, the reason why we believe in the reasoning is we think it's our own. Yeah. There's a big mistake that what you're listening to is you. Yeah. Yeah. You're the listening. Yeah. Your awareness in action. So the head is talking to you, to us, and it presents that talking to us as us. And now people, they're walking around talking to themselves and having a conversation. That's been going on for quite a while. It just got out, maybe when you hit 50 or 70. And now you're hearing a conversation in another room and there's only one person in there. And they're going back and forth, saying this and that. Well, that didn't just spring out of nowhere. It's been growing all for a while. And then the faith was so powerful, it manifested. Now there's two of them in the room. They always order a double bed when there's a single person in the hotel room. I don't want to knock on the door and break into that conversation. There's only one person in there. Whatever. So he's saying here, you stood wherever you stood, and it was basically a place you were screwed in. Yes, that's a given in recovery. Yeah, before recovery, you're pretty screwed. So wherever you've been brought to a place you're standing in, and it's shit. Place, so to speak. Yeah. And then usually when you're brought by alcoholism, you're not even standing. You're usually on your brought obviously a reasoning. Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a destroyed your life is completely neutral. Get what you're going to get. Your head is going to be occupied by yesterday and tomorrow, and it's going to eclipse this present moment. And then you'll have some weird, crazy ideas, and you'll start believing you're out of the moment. You've never been out of any moment. Yeah. It's what you're entertaining has you believing that you can be out of a moment. And then it has you so believing that you start buying books of how to get into the moment. Yeah. And if you buy a book to how to get into the moment, at that moment, you're reinforcing the belief that you can be out of a moment. And that is not true. Yes, it's not true. Yeah. But after the third, I first got how to get in the moment. That didn't really work well. But the second book, how to really get in the moment, that was starting to work. And then the third step book, how to stay in the moment. Wow. Yeah. All of that in a dualistic manner is reinforcing the insane idea that you can be out of the moment. And what a field day the head will have with you. What an incredible field day. Once it's checked you out, it has you basically, and then you're filled with past and future shit like that. Yes. So, and all that is conjured up through faith. Yes. So he goes here, did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful. So we're using that word abjectly. Abjectly, our friend Kathy from Cleveland gave us a definition of it. Spiritless servility. Spiritless servility. Wow. So you're serving something, and the condition you find yourself while serving that something is a spiritless condition. Hmm. What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, therefore we are being faithful. Yeah. Abjectly faithful to the God of reason. Yeah. And so they're attempting to say where you find yourself is not based on you. You're like the emblem of the observing of where you are. You did not drive there. You were driven there. Yeah. And that the force that drove you was using the force of faith. Yes. As Jesus says, faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Yes. But also faith in the head can make a molehill, make a mountain out of a molehill. That is also faith. Yes. And most of us are in the latter. We're living and trying to transverse the Rocky Mountains of molehills. Yeah. Molehills turn into fucking mountain ranges.
What was the other one? What was the opposite?
Mountain to molehills. Molehills.
What was
I don't know. I lost it already. So let me just finish. This is the coup d'etat. It's really, and this you have to realize was written for a completely different seemingly point. Yeah. Yes, we have been faithfully, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. Where does that God reside? In the head, yes? So, in one way or another, meaning always, so either one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. Yeah. What is non duality? What is one of the greatest in our little limited world of non duality? What was one of the greatest demonstrations of faith? It was Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta Maharaj listened to his teacher, and he had such great faith in his teacher and what he said, it was a whack. Yes? Basically, it was all downhill from there. There was no climbing, no anything. It was boom, boom. Yes. So the message manifests here, even though it's not of here. Non-duality is not a manifestation, it's a negation. Yeah, it stays in its primordial condition, which is no thing. Yeah, but that can produce effects here, incredible effects here. You can travel lighter. Yeah, you can be relieved. The head make of the past and future. The hiking, your REI subscription every year. You're just gonna, yeah, yeah. So the old Zen thing of first there is the mountain. We're trying to present something before that, which is first there is no mountain. So I have great faith that first there is no mountain. When I'm looking at a mountain, I have great faith that first there is no mountain. I do. I don't know why. Hey, yeah. But that faith does not, hey, come here. That faith doesn't make the mountain disappear. That's going to happen no matter what, sooner or later. It's just neutral about the mountain. But it definitely does not drive you to get hiking gear and make a plan to climb over the apex or anything like that. Has noise reduction. You don't hear anything. We're having chimes here. Dogs are fighting. You just, well, you think we're in a sea of bliss here. So here, if so, in one way or another, meaning anyway, doesn't it? Just we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. So you can't really, when you move your head and look back, you're still looking forward. Yeah. You are. When you just have a new forward. It's, so when you see this isn't a hope. This is a conclusion. As an action figure, you're moved on the game board by faith and faith alone. Yeah. Now you may have faith in the story that you're the doer, but it's a story that you're having faith in. Yes. Yes, you're not having faith. You can actually you observe that there's faith in it, and by seeing that, it opens you up to be redirected, so to speak. Yeah, you don't do anything about it. You just hear the truth of it as it is right now, and then you're there. And I found the faith that was sort of guaranteed to go to the head was based on it was always seen as you. And I humbly believe you're going to lose a lot of faith in the head when you see it's not about you. That's what's happened here. A lot of faith migrated, even though I tried to have it go a different direction tons of times with different modalities. By seeing what I'm not, it allowed a migration of the faith to be regrouped and redistributed in a different way. And therefore, the faith that was making this life quite difficult day in and day out now has brought an underlying ease and comfort while that traveling goes on. It's awesome, actually. And non-duality is the exclamation point. Non-duality just doesn't trail off into a but or an exception. Non-duality is an absolute. Yes, you are not that. It's an absolute. And the absolute is being ourselves reality. That is an absolute. It's not like something you do on the weekend or when you feel like you're feeling well or you feel like you could be reality today because I've been very good and all these conditional ideas. No, being ourselves reality is the fact. That's the fact from the view of non-duality. The fact of this whole event is we are being ourselves reality. Okay? Now, what is that going to look like if there's faith in the head? It's going to look like you're being something else than reality. And then reality can be a hot topic for you, and you're figuring everything I do doesn't seem to get what I want, really. So I'm going to look for reality. I'm going to give reality a lot of meaning that if I find reality, I'm going to get relieved of my little problems. Yeah. Because obviously it's not working here. So I'm going to look for reality. I'm driven to attain, I want to attain reality. And this is the dilemma. And it's not, and it's actually, it's the clincher of all scriptures when you see that which is attempting to attain reality with the underlying faith in being ourselves reality, you have a great impact of I'm not that. Yes. And finally, instead of looking from a fixed location, you see the fixed location looking. You see it, you're aware of it. Yeah. And let the cards fall where they may. You don't push any dominoes, but you're going to hear some things falling. Yeah. And you're going to observe stuff that you had really nothing to do with it other than the observing of it. Yeah, there you go. And now the faith is being redistributed. And that faith now is not killing me every day, which it was before. And it's bringing me an ease and comfort which is sorely needed as you get older. Because a lot of you want cushions, you want pillows, you want a lot of ease and comfort in a lot of ways. Yes. So I didn't see the faith being able to be moved from one thing to another thing if the faith was in the thing that I'm not. Yeah. It was the distribution of faith had already been taken over, compromised. And I wasn't running that distribution. I was at the effect of it. And then finally, I heard certain things that allowed me, through that burden of being the observer of all that shit happening, there was a quality that I could understand something and that I'm not that. And then that which I was trying to send away from it or, sharpen the scalpel of or the a lot of stuff. There's going to be a loss of interest. You're not going to lose interest. You're going to be the object that's got you lose interest in. Yeah. And then this unseen direction will now be noticed. Yeah. Yeah. Something will call your attention to different topics than the head does. It will. And where you find rest will be completely different than where you used to seek rest. Yeah, which was like narcotics or whatever, downers or whatever shit. Yep. Yeah. And it's all, I feel, manifestation. You remember they had the thing, the Shiva and Vishnu or whatever. So there's nothing, which is everything, and then something gets brought into seeming existence, or I would say appearance. I would say that is faith, literally. And how that appearance is going to keep appearing is faith. Yeah. Now, I have great faith in the idea of what I'm not. Just I got thoroughly convinced by sitting and listening. I remember once I was in a little tent in India, and I realized I'm never going to ask another question because what's asking the question is the activity of putting it off, so to speak. Yes, it was just obvious. Things became very blatantly obvious, and there was you didn't have to keep punching the dead horse. You just got off. You just walked away and shit. And then something went, what and what? that was here all the time? Yes, you were just looking in a certain way, you couldn't see it. What? Yeah, yeah. So see, if you're calm in the bottom, there may not be such a drive to create calmness on the surface. You may be able to recognize there's no calmness on the surface. Things are going on all day, every day. Yeah. Your physical feeling can switch in 10 seconds and stuff like that. Yeah. There's no peace there, but there is peace. Yeah. But there's no peace there. And for most of us, we were trying to calm the surface at the expense of the depth. We had no idea how deep it is, and we just wanted calmness of the surface. Yeah, that's a hollow dream because the surface is that's not its state is agitation. Its state is mountains, molehills. Its state is a lot of movement constantly and contrary to the way you would like it to go quite often. And if you don't bend with it, you're gonna break, literally, because it doesn't give a shit about your opinion. Yeah, you can argue with reality as much as you want. You're going to lose. It's just the way it goes. So you can be brought into more alignment, not by you bringing it, but by recognizing things. And then you're aligned in a different way. Just like in this life as an action figure, there have been two facts. I don't know exactly when they became facts, but they were obvious facts. Now, for a long period of time, I was in denial of those facts. Those were facts. Now, I was not in agreement with those facts, and I took a beating over and over again. And life finally realized I wasn't going to get it. Yeah. So it struck me sober. Really, it did. I mean, I got run over twice in the same night by the same car. Life knew I wouldn't get just the first one, so it backed up over me, and I still didn't get it. Years of hospitalization, didn't get it. So finally, it just intervened with a sudden whack. And then said, and when it sudden whacked me, it gave me a way of life. It introduced me to recovery that night. And then I've been riding that wave for 37 years. That's what's extended the miracle. But I wasn't getting it because I had such great faith in the head, and I felt I was fucked completely. And I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to be how I was. I wanted to feel different and I wanted to have control. And in drugs, in a weird way, you get control because you make a feeling before life introduces another feeling. So you have a feeling already in place. So when someone left me that I really liked when I was loaded, I just did more drugs. I forgot them like that. Yep. Shit was forgotten constantly. Yeah, people would point something out. Oh, that's interesting. Just fucking have another feeling. And I was in a feeling before you could like present a new feeling to me. I had it, I was barricaded, you know, and a complete disassociation. When I was out there after I got hurt, my leg was never attended to and it needed attention. This one leg, my right leg, was very bad, and I just disassociated completely, treated it like shit, really. So for all, and that was all done through faith, really. I had such faith in what the head was telling me and how things were from its view that I followed it religiously with abject servility. And so these things I don't say as like interesting little statements. This is a description of how it was. Yeah. Now, I was seeing a lot, but it wasn't doing anything. Now that seeing is doing a lot. It brought me to points of conviction that I don't go back and debate something every year. Yeah. Some things I'd never look back from. I was so thoroughly convinced that there was no need for more convincing. And I believe this isn't a unique trait. I believe all of us, and that faith that seems to be, and when you say you don't have faith, that's faith. Yeah. When you say, I don't have any faith, that's faith. You can't get before faith. You're always after faith. You are. You're a product of faith. You're not something that can choose, that you're a product of it. How you're appearing is based on faith. Yeah. So well, I don't have any faith. Well, you can say all you want. That's faith. That you have a strong conviction, you don't have any faith. That's faith, and that's conviction. You can't get out of it. This is the point. Yeah. This is what happens. You recognize, you see where you used to look from, and where you used to look from, that camera location is seen as a body. You were there. Yeah. Great faith in that. Great faith. Great faith. Yeah. Then something happens. I don't know. I think non-duality is probably the smallest invitation. Like non-duality is just two words. Yeah. Some of their greatest scriptures is the seeker is the sought. It's less than 5 words in the sentence, you know. What's looking is what you're looking for. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. These aren't like 300-page commentaries. They're like wax, you know, a whack. Yeah. And then see it reverberate and also see what arises to try to claim the whack. And time can slow down. You could have an eternity before you see something. Yeah, yeah. And we're trying to have an eternity after we saw something. I see the wiser point is before. Yeah. And that which you take yourself to be cannot get to the before. It's always after. If you're included in the before, that's after. Before, there's no you. Yeah. And we have that vision. Nothing's been taken away. It's readily available, but not to you. The vision is not available to you. You are blind as being that vision because you are that vision already. Yeah. So you are the act of denying it. How are you going to be turned into the act of reinforcing it? You're not. Yes. This is why they talk about there's a presupposing of the non-existent thing. So if the thing is non-existent, then what is existing? Well, it's not a thing. Let's get that clear. It's a simple statement. So bingo, you're out of the picture immediately. If there's a picture, you're out of it. Yeah. So there's a presupposing. What's presupposing it? The head, yes. The head is presupposing the non-existent thing to be an existent thing. Now, non-existing thing doesn't mean there was no existence. There's existence still with a non-existent thing because we are a non-existent thing right now, seemingly existing. Because existence is animating us, it's enlivening us. Yes, yes. So there is a as the non. It doesn't see the non-existent thing. And it doesn't see the existence in as that which is existing, boo-boo in a way, but it won't admit it. So that presupposes spiritual practices themselves are reinforcing the mistake, the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? like a question mark. Not, you're meant to look at it like that. Wait a minute. So all this stuff I did that I thought was furthering something was actually reinforcing something else. Yes. Without knowing it, as it says in the big book, without knowing it. Without knowing it, my wanting to become a spiritual thing was reinforcing that I was a thing, and I'm not a thing. Yes? But I really want to be a thing and become spiritual. Okay, well, there's going to be a cost, which is it's hard, like it or not, people try to graft spirituality onto a body. It doesn't stick well. In a controlled environment, the fake spiritual skin will stay put. But as soon as you leave the retreat, you go buy something, and of course it snags, and there goes your spiritual skin. Give me a big bandage, your old band. I got to try to keep this spiritual skin on me, and I keep running into things. Yes. Have you ever worked with I was painting houses, and when you would be painting houses, you would have extension cords, and every time I pulled the extension cord, it would catch on something. Every freaking time. I'd have to get down and go, and every time. Same thing. You're thinking, oh, I just it snags you. Well, this is sort of what it's like. I have to stay in like a thermal mummy type condition because one thing, there goes my spiritual skin. Oh, I have a resentment. You're going to get pissed off. For sure. The beautiful news is it's not you. This isn't about freedom from getting pissed off. It isn't. I get pissed off a lot at times, yeah. But the freedom is it's not you. Yeah. That gets pissed off. And then the pissing off that would have changed their life just dwindles after 20 minutes or something. It doesn't do anything because the faith isn't put in it. Yeah. And you don't do that, you observe it. You observe the faith is being moved by is something else is doing something. Yeah, it's not me. Yeah. And yeah. All right. I really have a thing about faith. I don't know what it is, but I do see it. I see it more as a force like gravity or dark matter or something. And I humbly believe things come into appearance in this dreaming through faith. And a lot of the dream weaving is in the head. Yeah. And the thoughts are given a power of faith through the word my. So in a way, we're the doorway to a lot of distribution. Yeah. We in a way where we're pointing, it directs where the faith goes in a sense. And I find great value in recognizing it. I find very little value in trying to do anything about it, but I find great value in recognizing it. Just recognize the flow of what's moving and stuff. And then in that seeing, it's just that thing. Remember, they had a very interesting experiment where there was a group of scientists that was given a big grant to study light and to see light as a particle. And then they did, and the light was seen as a particle. And then another group of scientists were given a grant to look at light, and they were looking at light as if it's a wave, and then light appeared as a wave to those. You see, we are the dreaming. We are the dreaming. We, not as Paul, but the mechanism of this is the dream machine. It's the interface with the virtual reality. The body is the interface, and the dreaming is going on. And that dreaming doesn't grow on its own. With faith, a faith in your own on a lot of stuff. Yeah. And then a lot of the joy came in increments because it wasn't all of a sudden that I saw the mechanicalness of the head. I heard the mechanicalness. It triggered in me, but it was a lot of revelations about it because there is a syrupiness of that's been poured in the mechanics, and there's great faith in that the mechanics are your doing, yeah, and they're not. Mm-mm. Yeah, great faith, and it's stubborn, and if you rub it the wrong way, it activates, it gets angry. Yeah, yeah. So the mechanicalness is much more thorough than maybe you can imagine of how the programming just triggers a reaction, yes, and then regurgitates, rethinks because the sense of doership, even though you have it in the action figure right now, it's really, really faded in the past idea. Yeah, yeah, even to the head. The head always feels like it's the doer here in the present, but the strength of feeling it's the doer in the past can fade unbelievably. And so at least you can be relieved of the doership of the past now, even though there's the sense of being the doer. I'm talking about relief that spills over into the action figure. Yeah, yeah. So you get relieved of the past and you also get relieved of the future. That's a fucking good bargain for the action figure. Seriously, man, because it's carrying way too explanations, but the narrative is the mistake. Yeah. The narrative is an artistic expression. It's not a detailed description of your journey. It's made up. Yeah. So you can have a lot of fun with it. But as a clear understanding of what's going on is totally pointless in a way. Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be a narrative that goes along with this event. It's just the way that the head's built. Yeah. Now it's great, like when the narrative was a CNN with a lot of fucking headlines, with you as always or something, and then to have it switch to Comedy Central is awesome. Yeah, where you're just laughing mostly. You're laughing at yourself most of the time. I had no idea that could happen. Yeah, it's very cool. So I had no response. No, I looked around the room, the live room, and no one inspired me. So I had to go to the big book. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The well didn't want to come up. It was like, I got things to do. Yeah. But recovery is always reliable. Yeah, who would have thought that? Who would have thought how much revelation is in recovery? But there is. I mean, it's incredible. Where do you hear stuff about faith like that? Yeah. Yet faith is the mover of all things. All things that are seen and hence unreal, all of those appearances are moved by faith. Yeah. You can see it obviously in your head. A molehill of an idea can become a mountain to you, like that. Yeah. And it's always accompanied by an ownership or a my. So that to me is a funnel of faith. Yeah. The my is what directs the faith into the thoughts or into this, or like girlfriend, great. My girlfriend, I should be able to check out her emails, or, park in front of her house at 2 a.m. She's my girlfriend.
Did we lose him?
Yep.
Yeah, he was freezing a lot in the garage, so I'm not sure if he's
I
out.
wonder if it's because they're live streaming as well. I think
Oh
they're
yeah, I can
recording
turn on